Hello. So, my scholarly research was based on the online dating since the COVID-19 pandemic, and I will just begin. The introduction for the history of my social issue. Obviously, people have been in relationships and have gone on dates long before the 1940s, but the concept of matchmaking by using data originated with the company known as Introduction in the 1940s. Then later on, as technology advanced, websites and eventually dating apps were invented to make online dating even more efficient. As for the current state, ever since the COVID-19 pandemic, people have been forced to stay socially distanced and even quarantined to protect themselves and others from the deadly virus. Those who feel lonely or miss the idea of being with someone have turned to dating apps and websites to keep in touch or meet new people in this time of isolation. And for the service paradigm, for the social issue is of loneliness and online dating is meaningful connections. One can find these connections by filtering interests through dating apps, meeting in person while socially distanced, and interacting online through interactive activities like, for example, video games. As for the problem I was trying to find or resolve, was how has the COVID-19 virus changed online dating? How has it changed online dating? And is there an increase or decrease in online dating now? The methods that were used were that researchers conducted multiple surveys to determine online dating's popularity, success, and possible flaws. The findings were that online dating will grow more popular over time since the opinions and perspectives on it are changing to favor it a bit more. All articles discussed how video chats are more popular now because of the coronavirus and how people are learning to have more meaningful conversations with one another online since they have more time. My research concludes that people will turn to online dating first now in order to remain safe, and methods like blind dates won't be used as often anymore. People will just kind of use online dating and the video chat methods as a substitute for blind dates. And what I learned is that I learned that online dating and dating apps are being used more this year than ever due to the coronavirus, which caused apps to improve their methods of communication. Before the pandemic, there weren't any video chat options or um, traveling options per se. There's a new way to communicate with people outside of the country called a passport. I know that's on either Tinder or Bumble, and they made it free now because it was originally for premium app users. And since people can't really travel or go outside as much during the pandemic, that's a new option that is also added to a lot of dating apps, which I find to be interesting for long distance relationships. As for the news research, local news found focused on the rise of online dating and people seeking commitment more now. National news focused on how people have more free time for dating apps now and time to reflect on what they're really looking for. The global news article is focused on the reality of dating during quarantine and what dating will be like after the virus is under control. To compare and contrast them, all news sources mention that video chats are being used as methods of communication more now. The local news articles were obviously more biased to Las Vegas and safety for the community. The national news articles discuss the horrible things about COVID, and the global news articles also discuss distance and online dating, like I mentioned before with the long distance passport options on the dating apps. I also found that the national news articles discussed more of the negatives on the pandemic and the online dating situation than the local or the global mentioned, which I found interesting. As for bias and reliability, the sources I chose were all fairly neutral and stayed above the 40 mark on the media bias chart. And for logical fallacies, there weren't many that I could pinpoint exactly, but in the national news articles like the New York Times, I found appeal to emotion a lot just because they mentioned how terrible and awful the pandemic is making everyone feel and how it actually is, which is obviously leaning towards emotion in their argument. And finally, for my reflection, this service learning project taught me more about the advancements we are making while the world feels like it's on pause. I understand now how strangers are staying connected and the benefits that online dating has on those who use it during COVID-19. For engagement, through my service learning project, I was able to apply my own personal experiences to online dating prior to the coronavirus. I even re-downloaded a few dating apps to see if anything had changed from the last time I used a dating app before quarantine. Before quarantine, I did use a few dating apps like Tinder and Bumble, and it was obviously a very different experience because a lot of people were looking for one night stands and hookups and weren't really looking for committed relationships or even conversations with somebody. But now, when I re downloaded it a few months ago, it was a totally different scene with the video chat option and also just people wanting to create lasting relationships and communication that I hadn't really seen before online. And for this service learning assignment allowed me to feel up to date with current events and focus on one issue rather than trying to cope with everything going on at the moment. I'm able to conduct a successful research project now in an organized manner and understand the topic at a deeper level. And for my references, I will add a picture of what I used. It'll also be attached probably in the email that I send you. But this research project has helped a lot, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.